Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Dark History Podcast, where we delve into the darkest parts of human history. I hope you're all well. I'm Rob, your host as always, and you're listening to Season 4, Episode 21. We've made it. It's our 100th episode, and I can't believe it's almost been 4 years. We're finally here. I won't waffle on too long, but there's some big news. Effective immediately, we're officially part of the Radcast Network. This is a huge step forward for us. The catch, you may hear a couple more ads, but I promise you, the heart of the show isn't changing, and hopefully, my dear listeners, you can bear with this. Now, I need to clear something up. Last episode I hinted at something new. Well, it sounded pretty terrible and vague. Let me fix that. I'm launching a dark history spin-off, and I'm so excited about this. I'm not giving away the title or the topic just yet. You'll have to wait for the season finale for that. But what I will say is these will be bite-sized episodes of about 10 to 15 minutes long and fill the weeks between our main show. And that's all you're getting for now. So you'll have to stay tuned. Anyway, you'll notice something different about this episode. The subject is one we've walked through before, but this time we're not just telling the story, we're stepping directly into it. Tonight we are stepping into a nightmare. The year is 1349. The place is London, a city choking on its own filth and fear. The Black Death is not a chapter in a history book here. It's the air that people breathe. The sight behind their eyes when they sleep, the constant ringing bell that marks the end of another life. In times like these, symbols of hope become figures of terror, and perhaps the most terrifying figure of all was the plague doctor. That beaked mask, the head-to-toe black robes, it was a costume designed to ward off death, but it became death's very herald. What you're about to hear is the day in the life of one such man. It is a story built from historical fact, the practices, the beliefs, the staggering mortality, but brought to life through an imagined character. We have used artistic license to fill in the gaps records left empty, to put a heartbeat and a consciousness inside the infamous mask. So a little context before we start. The Black Death arrived in England in 1348, and by the following year, London was a charnel house. The city's population was halved. The cause was a mystery, blamed on everything from poisoned wells to vengeful gods. But the real culprit, the Yersinia pestis bacterium, carried by fleas on rats, was centuries from being discovered. In this void of understanding, the plague doctors were hired, often by desperate municipalities. These men were not the learned physicians of the age. Those had largely fled. They were second-rate surgeons, apothecaries, or even, as in the case of our protagonist, men from even lower trades, elevated only by their desperation and their willingness to walk into the pestilence. My dear listeners, I invite you to close your eyes, listen closely, and let the world around you fade. I want you to truly feel this, to immerse yourselves in the thick, acrid air, the horrifying scenes, and the gloomy quagmire that was medieval London. As we prepare to travel back, I want you to grab something. A sprig of rosemary, a pinch of lavender, and any fragrant herbs you have. Hold it close. Let its scent be your anchor as we descend into the stench and the sorrow. Back to the tale of Thomas Avery and into more dark history. I wake before the sun, not to its light, but to its absence. A deep, soot-stained gloom that clings to my garret room, above an abandoned butcher's shop. The first breath of the day is always the worst. It's a thick stew of scents, the coppery tang of old blood seeping up from the floor below, the sour reek of the Thames mist, and underneath it all, the new, sweetish odour of rot that now defines this city. My name is Thomas Avery. Once I was a digger of graves. Now I am a supposed tender of the dying, a plague doctor. The Guild of Physicians and Surgeons pays me £50 a week to don this costume and walk into houses God has clearly abandoned. It is more money than I have ever earned with a shovel, but it buys me a different kind of damnation. The ritual begins. I scrub my hands and face with vinegar, the sharp alkaline biting into my skin. A futile protest against the miasma they say carries the sickness. Then the uniform. The boots, stiff with dried mud and things I care not to name. The heavy, wax-laden gown, a shroud I wear while still breathing. It smells of smoke and despair. Finally, the mask. The leather is cold against my face. I pack the Beak afresh with rosemary, lavender, and cloves, a fragile wall against the stench of the death I know awaits me. I look at my reflection in the silver of a broken mirror. Bird-faced demon stares back, the glass eyes giving nothing away. This is who I am now. The streets are a waking tune. A thin, greasy fog coils through the lanes, and the cobblestones are slick with a film of waste and decay. The sound of handbells clangs in the near distance, followed by the hoarse cries I've come to dread. Bring out your dead. My first call is in St. Mary's parish. A red cross, freshly painted, bleeding like a wound on a splintered door. The watchman, whose face is pale and pinched, nods and gestures me in. The air inside hits me like a physical blow, even though the herb's in my beak. It's the smell of a body turning inside out. Vomit, sweat, the iron tang of blood, and the high, putrid stench of suppurating flesh. A woman lies on a pallet. Her shifts soak through. Her eyes are wide with terror, tracking my every movement. A bubo, swollen and livid as a rotten plum, bulges from her armpit. I kneel, using my cane to gently prod the swelling. She whimpers. Her husband hovers in the corner, his hand clenching and unclenching. "Can you save her?" he whispers, his voice cracking. I look at him through my glass eyes. What answer can I give? The truth? That I'm a gravedigger with a quill, here only to record her passage from this world? Instead, I mutter the lies I'm paid to tell. The herbs, burn them. They will purify the air. Pray for her soul. I make a note in my ledger. Alice, Life of John, St. Mary's Lane, buboes, axphilia, fever. As I turn the page, the husband presses a coin into my gloved hand. It's warm and damp from the frantic gripping. A halfpenny. I take it. The guilt is a cold stone in my belly. But I take it. Stepping back into the half-light, I see the dead cart has arrived. 2 men, faces wrapped in rags, are lifting a shrouded form from the house next door. The sheet slips. A small, pale hand, no larger than a bird's claw, falls loose and swings limply. A child. I look away, but the image is seared behind my eyes. This image would become a deathly reality soon enough. The cart rolled on, its wheels rumbling over the stones like distant thunder. I pull my mask tighter and move on. The day has only just begun. As I move through the death-clutched streets, a woman calls from the doorway.
Doctor, please, my boy, he burns.
I hesitate. I always hesitate. Then I force myself forward. Inside the room is dark. It's bitter with sweat. The boy lies on a cot, eyes glassy, lips blackened. Buboes swell beneath his arms and groin. Great purple swellings that leak and stink. His mother kneels beside him, her hands clasped, whispering prayers that are long unanswered. I touch the swelling with my cane. The skin split. A thin, blood-black fluid oozes out. He will not last the day. I hand her a sachet of herbs and murmur the same false comforts I've given 100 times before. Boil this in water. Breathe the steam. Burn rosemary in the hearth. And pray. Her gaze meets the blank avian stare of my mask. Beneath it, I see it all. The pallor of her skin, the sheen of sweat. A cold certainty settles in my gut. She will be reunited with her child in the afterlife far sooner than she knows. As I walk away, I nod to the warden. The scuff of my boots on the filth-strewn cobbles is drowned out by him shoving her back inside. The slam of the door is followed by the first sickening thud of a hammer on wood. Her scream is not one of fear, but of raw, final understanding. A plea for mercy this city no longer possesses. I don't turn. I know the shape of that sound. I know the silence that always follows. I make my way to St. Dunstan's parish. The priest there keeps a ledger, names of the dead, their ages, their addresses. I meant to record the symptoms, but most are the same. Fever, buboes, blood from the nose, death within 3 days. He greets me at the door, pale and trembling. God bless you, Master Avery. How fares your soul? How does it fare? It's heavy with the weight of the boy and his mother I have condemned to be sealed in their tomb. I have traded salvation for a purse full of silver and despair. Still within me, I answer candidly. For now, my sarcasm masking my true feelings. He nods, clutches his cross as though it will save him. But faith offers little here. Even the churches are emptying, not from a lack of devotion, but from fear. The faithful fear their own breath. Behind the churchyard, the ground is soft with rain and deterioration. Graves upon graves. We no longer mark them with names. There is no space for words, just mounds of earth, the smell of lye, and the buzz of flies that will not die. As I leave the church, I hear shouting down the lane. A man dragging a cart, cursing while 2 others follow, hurling stones. Thief, one cries. He steals from the dead. The accused, a ragged fellow, pulls a dead woman's ring from his pocket, waving it wildly. She don't need it now, he screams. I've got mouths to feed. No one stopped him when he runs. No one chases long. Who would risk breath for gold? By midday, the sun is a pale, bleary eye in the sky, the colour of ash. It offers no warmth, only a cruel light to see the city's ruin by. Cheapside, once the bustling heart of London trade, is a ghost of itself. A few desperate souls huddled at market stalls, their faces drawn, their voices hushed. The vibrant chaos of commerce has been replaced by a nervous, shuffling silence, broken only by the sound of coughing from upper windows. I stop by a public pump to rinse my gloves. The water runs brown for a moment before clearing. Downriver I can see barges being loaded, not with wool or wine, but with the bodies, stacked like cordwood. The rumours are true then. The churchyards are full. They are taking them to mass pits beyond the city walls. I think of the rumours I've heard in taverns, whispered by men with wild eyes. They say that in Norwich, the dead are so outnumbered the living that the last survivor simply walked into the sea. They say the Pope in Avignon sits between two great fires, day and night, to burn the pestilence from the earth. Here in London, they blame the Jews for poisoning the wells, the foreigners, the lepers, anyone who's not us. Fear always needs a scapegoat. By mid-afternoon the heat turns foul. The air is thick with a stench of fish, dung and death. The gutters overflow with refuse, bones, straw, rotting food, rags. Dogs tear at a corpse in the alleyway. Children play among them because there's nowhere else to go. Everywhere I walk, doors are marked with red crosses. Lord have mercy upon us. I pass a house where the windows are boarded from the inside. Through the cracks I hear sobbing. They've sealed themselves in, trying to outwait death. It never works. My next call is on a wealthier merchant in Aldgate. The house is larger, but the fear is the same, just better disguised. A servant, his face a mask of terror, lets me in. The master of the house, a man named Harrington, lies in a curtained bed. The room smells of beeswax and rosewater, but beneath it, the same old stench is waiting. His fever is high, his speech slurred. "Doctor," he rasps, clutching my gown with a sweaty hand. "I have money. Save me. Use your arts." His wife hovers, her silk dress rustling. She presses a silver coin to my palm. It's heavy, cold, real. A shilling, more than I make in a week from the guild. I feel a surge of contempt for them, for the belief that wealth can bar death's door, and for myself, for the part of me that is glad I have it. I go through the motions. I examine the blackened swellings in his groin. I listen to the rattle in his chest with my ear pressed to the cane. I prescribe a poultice of dried toad and arsenic, a remedy as useless as it is expensive. I am a charlatan in a beaked mask, and we will all play our parts. As I leave, the afternoon light slants through the smoke, catching the grand facade of the house. A bitter laugh catches in my throat. All their titles, their wealth, their prayers, it's a game. And when the final move is made, the king and the pawn are tossed into the same box, indistinguishable in the dark. The plague is the only true equalizer this city has ever known. I continue to walk down Pudding Lane, and in the air is suddenly, jarringly filled with wholesome smells of baked bread from the bakeries that stubbornly remain open. The scent is so normal, so achingly familiar, that it feels like a blow. It lasts for only a few steps before the underlying stench of death reasserts itself. the two smells coiling together in a nauseating dance, life and decay, inseparable. Children playing in the gutter fall silent as I pass. One of them, a boy of no more than 6, points a grimy finger. "Look," he says, his voice flat. "The birdman. He comes before the cat." The boys tail me, their taunts echoing in the narrow lane. "Birdman, birdman." A stone skids off my shoulder, a dull tap against the leather. The laughter is sharp, but short-lived. It's cut by a sound I know too well, a deep, wet cough that racks the smallest one. The laughter dies in their throats. In an instant, the pack scatter, leaving him alone, hunched and gasping. I do not need to speak. I am a walking bell, and my presence alone tolls their mortality. Dusk bleeds into evening, staining the sky a bruised purple. The city does not fall into darkness, but into a deeper kind of gloom, punctuated by the flickering orange of torches and funeral pyres. My body aches with a weariness that has sunk into my bones. The waxed gown chafes my shoulders. The mask feels like it's slowly suffocating me. I make my final report at the Guildhall. The clerk, a skeletal man who never seems to blink, takes my ledger without a word. His quill scratches across the parchment, adding my 11 confirmed dead to the city's endless tally. "The pit at Moorfield is near full," he says, not looking up. "They've started another at Smithfield. Your services may be required there later." I simply nod. My services. He means the Spade, not the Beak. I find a tavern that will still serve me. A squalid place where the ale is thin and the patrons keep their distance. I sit in a corner, pulling my mask down just enough to sip the sour liquid. A man at the nearby table is holding forth. His voice is incoherent with drink and dogma. "It is a punishment," he slurs. "A cleansing of fire of our sins, of greed and lust. We must repent. We must scourge the wickedness from our souls." Another exclaims, "They say it's ending. The plagues move north. Maybe it's God's mercy at last." No one pays them any mind. We have all heard this before. When the world ends, everyone becomes a prophet, and their prophecies are all the same. The faces of the day drift behind my eyes like smoke. Alice's wide, terrifying stare, already ghostly. The merchant, Harrington, clutching his coin as if it were a key to a door that did not exist. But the boy, however, his small face is etched behind my eyelids. His eyes were too old for his face. Departed his pain, I should guess, by this hour. The Red Cross painted, the warden's decision made. The house is a tomb. The mother, infected and trapped, would have held his small, cooling body until the silence swallowed her too. I offered them nothing. No cure, no comfort. Just a note in my ledger. A name to be added to the pit's tally. The merchant's coin feels like a weight of sin in my purse. I'm not a healer. I'm a scribe of the dying, a notary for the damned, and some debts I fear cannot be paid. As I walk back to my lodgings, I pass the churchyard of St. Sepulchre's. A funeral procession is entering. A handful of black-clad figures huddled around a single coffin. It seems a quaint, almost luxurious ritual now. A whole coffin for one body. The priest's Latin chants is swallowed by the vast, hungry silence of the graveyard, which is piled high with freshly turned earth. A cold dread, separate from the plague, begins to knot in my stomach. It is a familiar feeling, one I have carried since my days with the Spade. The night is not for rest, it's for the other part of my duties. The moon is a silver of bone caught in the clouds. I've traded my doctor's cane for my old friend, the Spade. Its worn wooden handle is more familiar, more honest, than the polished stick I carry by day. Beyond the city walls, at Smithfield, the world is a vision of hell. Great pits gouge the earth, and torches stuck in the ground cast a dancing, infernal light. Men, my brethren, the diggers, move like shadows in the gloom, their faces rapt, their movements slow and weary. The air is thick with a smell of damp soil and cloying, chalky scent of quicklime. It's where it all ends. The carts arrive in constant grim parade, the bodies wrapped in cheap linen, or sometimes nothing at all, are tipped into the darkness. We work in near silence. The only sound is the grunt of a man, the thud of earth, and the soft, final impact of the dead landing on the dead. I dig. The rhythm is mechanical, a trance of physical labour. Lift, drive, turn, heave. The blisters on my hand, softened by the doctor's gloves, rupture and bleed, staining the wood. I welcome the pain. It's a feeling, something real in this unreal world. I pause to wipe sweat from my brow. Then I feel it. A dull, deep ache in my groin. Tenderness that was not there this morning. My heart stutters. No. I move away from the torchlight, into the deeper shadows at the pit's edge. My hands, clumsily in their thick gloves, fumble at the ties on my breeches. I have to know. In the faint light I see it. A swelling, small, hard and hot to touch, nestled in the joint of my leg. The world tilts. The sound of digging, the murmur of voices, it all recedes, replaced by a roaring in my ears. This is not a bite. This is not a bruise. I've seen this mark 1,000 times. I have charted its progress from a tender lump to a black, bursting horror. It is the judge's seal, the token. I am infected. A cold that has nothing to do with the night's air seeps into my marrow. The fear is immediate, absolute. It is a sharp taste of iron in my mouth, a tightening band around my chest. I lean against my spade, my legs trembling. All the rituals, all the vinegar, the herbs, the mask, it was all a pantomime, a children's story we told ourselves in the face of an invincible, indifferent reaper. I think of fleeing, but where do I go? The sickness is not out there, it is in here, it's in me. A strange calm descends over me, the calm of a verdict passed. The waiting is over. I look at the pit. I look at the spade in my hand. I know what I must do. I climb down into the grave. The earth is cool and soft. I began to dig again, but this time the rhythm is different. It's not for the city, not for the guild. It's for me. I dig deeper into the cold, damp clay, away from the lime and the chaos above. The fever finds me as I work. A sudden blazing heat erupts in my skull. My muscles begin to ache with profound weakness. A cough racks my body, tearing at my throat. I can smell it now, that sweet rotten odour, on my own breath. I sink to my knees in the earth I have loosened. The world swims in and out of focus. The torches are blurry suns. I fumble with the straps of my mask and tear it from my face, gulping the night air. It tastes of soil and decay, but it's real. I look at the silvery moon. I think of my wife, my son, taken by the pestilence 2 summers ago. Perhaps I will see them soon. The thought is the first comfort I have allowed myself in years. My hands find the swelling on my groin. It feels larger already. I lie back in the shallow depression I have made. The cool earth is a balm against my burning skin. Above me, the stars are hidden by the perpetual smoke of London. The sounds of the diggers fade away. There is only the rasp of my own breath, growing slower and shallower. The last thing I see is my beaked mask, lying in the dirt beside me, the glass eyes staring sightlessly at the black sky, an empty shell, a discarded costume. The play is over. Thank you everyone for taking the time out of your day to sit with this profoundly dark episode. I know it was something different, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thomas Avery, as I said earlier, was not a real man, but his story is built from 1,000 real fragments. From the contracts of plague doctors in places like Florence and Paris, who were often paid a pittance to risk their lives. From the records of mass burial pits, some containing hundreds of souls, unearthed by modern archaeologists. From the grim reality that in cities like London, the life expectancy of a plague doctor could be measured in weeks. He represents a profound human truth, that in the face of an unimaginable catastrophe, people will do what they must to survive, to find meaning, even when all meaning has fled. He was a gravedigger who became a doctor, a man who tried to build a barrier of herbs and leather between himself and the abyss, only to find that the abyss was already within him. The Black Death eventually receded, but it left a Europe forever changed. It shattered feudal systems, reshaped economies, and altered the very psyche of a continent. But we must never forget that this vast historical upheaval was composed of millions of individuals' quite terrible ends, in the stinking alleyways, in the shuttered rooms, and in the pits at the edge of town. The plague doctor remains an icon of that era, a symbol of our desperate, often futile attempt to understand and control the forces of nature and fate. He walked the line between the living and the dead, until, all too often, he became one of the latter. So the next time you see that image, the beaked mask, the black robe, don't just see a figure of horror. See a man like Thomas Avery, a man with a story, with fear, with a life that was as fragile as any other. A man who, in the end, was simply trying to do his job until the very last. If you've enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review. It really helps us reach more listeners by boosting our visibility in the algorithm. If you think friends and family may enjoy the podcast, don't hesitate to share it with them. You'll find links to all socials below. I know ads can sometimes be a pain, so if you prefer ad-free episodes, check out our Patreon link, also provided. Supporting us on Patreon is a great way to contribute. but it's entirely optional. We also have a merch store link below, where purchases greatly support the show and help cover production costs. If you've been listening for a while and haven't subscribed yet, please do so. That way, you'll never miss an episode. Thank you again for your support. So, with all that out of the way, thank you again for listening. Join us next time for our next episode, as we delve into another event and more dark history.